There's a caution, it's really, I guess, an admonition in the Talmud that has long guided me. Silence is assent. The Shulchan Aruch deepens this idea, teaching that if someone does not protest a claim or act that they had the opportunity to contest, their silence may be interpreted as consent. In other words, to say nothing is to say something. And in moments of moral crisis, that silence is not neutral, it is dangerous. One of the unexpected blessings of my rabbinic sabbatical, which I vaguely remember, was the time and the space to be alone with my thoughts. I never had the luxury of tuning out what was happening to Jews in Canada or Israelis or to Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. But I did have the chance to sit with the complexity of it all, the pain, the contradictions, and the grief. And now that I've been back at the shul for a month, your emails, conversations, and those moments that you pull me aside after services and make it clear, have made it clear to me that people want their rabbi and rabbis, Rabbi Brown spoke last night, to say something, not just anything, but something that resonates, something that makes sense of the senseless, something that affirms what they already believe or challenges them in just the right way. Something that will help them sleep at night. Say something. Say that Israel is right. Say that Gaza is starving. Say that Hamas is evil. Say, I told you so. Say Canada should act or Canada shouldn't act. Say that it meets the definition of X, Y, or Z. Say that it doesn't meet the definition of X, Y, or Z. Just say something, because I can't sleep. And yet, I am deeply aware of the risks of speaking at all. As my colleague, Rabbi Asher Knight, has observed, speaking from the heart in times like this feels perilous. Every day brings new horror, new headlines, new heartbreak. And clarity becomes elusive, and words, well, they feel inadequate and maybe even futile. But still, as the Talmud tells us, and we know, I cannot remain silent. Not because I have the answer, not because I know how to end the war or how to bring the hostages home or how to deliver aid to every starving child in Gaza. I wish that I did, but I don't. I'm not a general or a diplomat or a policymaker, and they may not have any viable solutions either. They haven't had any thus far. But I'm a rabbi. And as a rabbi, I feel compelled to speak to you this Shabbos morning, and then after this Shabbos and after Tisha B'Av, to send these remarks out to the congregation as well, along with Rabbi Brown's from last night. My aim here is not to solve, but to hold, to witness, to name the unbearable pain so many of us are feeling, and the pain of witnessing suffering across borders and identities. The pain of losing what was once held to be certain, the pain of distorted truths and unraveling relationships. I am holding tensions that refuse to be smoothed over. I honestly hope that we all are. Because the last thing that we should be in this moment is so certain that we have all the answers that we stop looking for better ones. And still there are facts. There are things that I know. I know that people of Gaza are starving. I have seen the images. I have read the reports. As the Talmud reminds us, because we so often forget, or honestly, in our privilege, maybe we've never known it. One who has bread in his basket is not like one who does not have bread in his basket. Someone who has everything is not at all like someone who has nothing. Because someone who has everything is tempted to forget what it is like to have nothing. The reasons that there is starvation in Gaza are complex, and there are plenty of parties to blame. But to quote Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel speaking about inequality in the United States in the 1960s, some are guilty, but all are responsible. And all means all. As Jews, we must never forget what it is like to be the world's unwanted, to be running for our lives, to have every door and border, shore and shore closed off to us. Empathy is not a weakness. It's a mitzvah. We must, as our Torah tells us, love our neighbor as ourselves. And yes, that same teaching is found in Islam. Neither Jew nor Muslim is free from the obligation, nor blameless in not adhering to it. And Hamas has not accepted us or Israel for one day. And I believe them when they say that they never will. And the world should too. I know, and the world too often forgets, ignores, or celebrates that Hamas is a terrorist organization that has chosen cruelty and exploitation, not care and compromise. And in spite of that fact, many now see Israel as the sole source of Palestinian suffering, ignoring or excusing the actions of Hamas, whose fundamental plan for survival is the humanitarian suffering of the people of Gaza, to say nothing of their sworn promise to annihilate Israel and Jews from the river to the sea. I know that as Jews we are carrying the burden of our history and the blessing of our covenant to be an Or LaGoyim, a light unto the nations. There are limits to what you can do even when fighting an existential war. I know that Israel has made decisions in the conduct of this war, some of them necessary, some of them devastating, that have caused death and destruction to civilians. Many fear that we are losing our moral compass or the world's empathy, or both. Israeli philosopher Yitzhak Greenberg once observed, if the Jewish army was 10% more moral, it would be a light unto the nations. If 25% more moral, the Messiah would come. If it was 50% more moral, the state would cease to exist. You see what he did there? This is the impossible paradox of being a Jewish state in a real and brutal world, not to mention a very tough neighborhood. To defend ourselves fiercely and still ask, how do we remain a people of conscience? How do we fight without forgetting who we are? How do we hold power without losing our soul? This war tests what Judaism has always tested. Whether we can demand a higher standard of ourselves, even in conflict, even as our enemies exploit that very moral burden. And even as the world demands more of us than it demands of anyone else. I know that our loyalty to Torah and to Zionism and to the state of Israel demands that we reject Jewish extremism and settler violence. I do not fault Canada or other nations for condemning it or sanctioning its participants and practitioners and perpetrators. I fault them for not applying that same condemnation and moral outrage when Jews are the targets. There is no moral universe where it can be acceptable to celebrate terrorists and violent protesters. Everyone, on every side, must stop excusing the inexcusable. And I know that anti-Semitism is rising again. That Jews are being targeted not for their actions, but for their identity. And I know that in 2025, more than 75 years after the founding of the State of Israel in our ancestral homeland, you cannot separate Judaism from Zionism. The Jewish question, as it was once and is again referred to, it has been answered by 7 million Jewish voices in the State of Israel, remarkable Israelis and all of their descendants. I am proud of Israel, even in its imperfection. The right of Israel to exist is not a question anymore, and to even ask it, that is anti-Semitism. But not all of the pain that we carry comes from those who hate us. Some of it comes from those who claim to stand with us, who offer us love or solidarity so long as we stay quiet, so long as we don't make things uncomfortable for them, so long as we don't name what hurts. And here's something else I know. Love that demands silence is not love. And solidarity that suppresses truth is not solidarity. If you are not free to speak your truth in the presence of those who claim to love you, then that love is a lie. If their solidarity depends on you denying your pain or someone else's, it's not solidarity, it's performance. Part of why rabbis need sabbaticals is that we sit with people in the messiness of their lives every single day. It's a blessing, and I am grateful for it. And it's heavy, and it's raw. Holding the hands of grieving parents, listening to a couple at the breaking point, comforting someone whose sense of identity is unraveling, or someone who no longer recognizes the political or religious world that they once found a home in, simply, it's a lot to hold. And maybe that's why this moment in Jewish life feels so familiar to me. Because what we are facing right now as a people, these ruptured relationships, this spiritual disorientation, this aching grief, it's not so different from what I witness every week, just writ large. Families torn over politics, friends suddenly speaking a different moral language, a sense of belonging that once felt secure now shaken or even lost. This is what it feels like when the ground shifts beneath you, when there is an earthquake in your life, when something that you love breaks. And the pastoral wisdom that I have learned in those quiet, raw moments between diagnosis and death, between betrayal and forgiveness, between fear and resilience, well, that's really all that I can and will bring to you in this hour of our communal heartbreak. Those moments and these are not about having the right answer. They're about staying in the room when it gets hard. They're about refusing to reduce people to positions. They're about witnessing pain without needing to fix it. They're about finding moral meaning and prophetic purpose. Over the years, I've learned this. Certainty is often a disguise for fear. But humility is holy. And grief, especially collective grief, it can fracture us, but it can also open us up. To quote Leonard Cohen, the cracks are where the light gets in. Grief can make us more tender with one another, more honest, more attuned to what's sacred. Grief can heal. And isn't that what Torah teaches? That we're not meant to be alone in our grief, that we're not meant to speak, that we are meant to speak truth in love? That to sit Shiva with each other, not only for those who have died, but for the dreams that have been shattered, for the relationships that feel broken, for the moral clarity that we once believed was easy to hold. As your rabbi, I will not be silent, because silence in the face of suffering is not neutrality, it is betrayal. And even when the world demands that we choose a side, we can still choose to stand on the side of our humanity. And maybe that's the most important thing that I have learned. Sitting with so much heartbreak, not just as a rabbi, but as a human being. I like to think they're not different. Our task right now as Jews and human beings isn't to win arguments. It's to hold on to our humanity, to listen more deeply, to hold complexity with courage, and to keep showing up for each other, not despite of our differences, but because of our differences. That's all that I can offer. Some will say it's not enough. Some will say I went too far. Some will say I said too much. Some will say I didn't say enough. But I cannot be silent. None of us can. Shabbat Shalom. See ya.